Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Beruchim Abaim to everybody. Today, Thursday, the 8th day of Tishrei, corresponding to the 10th of October, 2024. Today's class and breakfast, graciously sponsored by Ezekiel and Annabella Yofi and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved mother, Razel Bat Sender, Aliyah Shalom, that today is her Askara. To the words of Torah, her neshama as an aliyah in Gan Eden, amen. Additionally, today's class graciously sponsored by Uri Jamal and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved father, Kamel Ben Nisha, alav shalom. Additionally sponsored by Todd Tuvia Libby, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved mother, Caroline Catriela Bat Bella Malka. Today's class also dedicated Le'ilui Nishmat Reuben Ben Leoni Tayev, and a Mavdil for the Refuah Shlema of Menachem Ben Belina, a young child, Rosie Bat Corey, I believe, and always coming good news from Eretz Israel. As it was mentioned a few moments ago, we begin the class by expressing publicly our gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for sparing our city and the adjacent cities in our county from the threatening hurricane by the name of Milton. So we do know that it did go to some areas and it did create some physical damage, but somehow, as the hours yesterday were going by, apparently it was downsized from different categories, etc. And we hope and pray that everybody is safe and is in their respective homes. We do know that there are over 1 million and some people without power, right, without electricity, and I hope that Be'ezat Hashem, everything goes back to the recovery mode, amen. So today, before we go further into the class of Ereb Yom Kippur, I'd like to concentrate in the final 3 letters of the word Teshuvah. Yesterday, we discussed 2 of them in the name of Rabbeinu Zusha. Today comes letter number 3, 4, and 5. Ve'avta l'reacha kamocha. As we discussed in the past, this is not an easy mitzvah to fulfill, and there are many explanations what this particular pasuk means. And one of the basic explanation talks about the relationship between husband and wife. People usually think, oh, love your fellow man as you love yourself. According to some opinions, it's impossible. It's impossible. How can I love you like I love myself? Make sense? Our rabbis tell us that this refers to 2 things. Number 1, 3 things actually. Explanation number 1, the relationship between husband and wife, which is based on the Gemara that says, Ohava kegufo umchabeda yoter migufo. The Gemara writes, when it comes to the relationship between husband and wife, the Gemara writes, honor your wife like you honor yourself. Love your wife like you love yourself, and honor your wife more than you honor yourself. This is very deep concept. What does it mean? Honor your wife like more than you honor yourself. In other words, if for you 1 is good, for her needs to be 1.5. If you spend $50 in a tie, she spends $100 in a dress, and that's cheap. I know you like what I just said.
Yeah, where are you shopping?
Right, where are you shopping? Right? Don't ask me. I don't do the shopping. Take that. Online, that's the new shtick today. But anyways, in a more serious note, that's basically what the Gemara writes. I remember a few years back, true story by the way, a husband and wife came to me, and the wife complained that the husband is not generous with her. It's cheap. Have you heard of this word?
Yeah.
Cheap, stingy, pão duro in Portuguese, kamsan in Hebrew, tacaño in Spanish. I see everybody understands the verbatim of this not happy and pleasant word. And I said to her, I don't understand. What do you mean? So she tells me the following. Listen to the story. He bought a suit for the holiday. Okay. Okay, you bought a suit for the holiday, Hazaku Baruch. So I asked him, how much you pay for your suit? This was a few years back. He tells me, only $400. Okay, and what's the problem? And he says, I don't understand. She bought 3 skirts and 2 tops. What is she complaining? You know what she said to me? Rabbi, you know what he did? He went to Saks Fifth Avenue and bought a suit for $400 and gave me Heke like a packet change, $150. Go to Marshall's or Ross or TJ Maxx and buy something for the holiday. So he said to me, what's the big deal? I said, what's the big deal? You don't listen? Took me 10 minutes to convince him what's wrong with that statement. Now, I don't want to create any Shalom Bayit issues between husband and wife. All of the stores that I mentioned are wonderful, and don't feel bad of buying in these stores because they don't sell cheap garments. They buy the leftovers that Saks doesn't want. They have only 2 pieces. They don't have all the sizes, so they buy a bulk pieces. So sometimes you can find good deals and great merchandise in all of the stores that I mentioned a few moments ago. By the way, none of them did pay a promotional fee for being mentioned in the iTorah.com live broadcast. If you know them, please send them a quick message that the rabbi mentioned your name in the class today. Sponsor a class, right? Sponsor a week. Or sponsor the Sukkah project. I don't care. Just do something. Okay. But you know what I saw? A beautiful pirush in the Yom Yom earlier today that says, Ruach HaBeriyot noha hemenu, Ruach HaMakom noha hemenu. It's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that says, how do I know if God likes a person? How do I know if God likes me? I don't know. What are you going to send a WhatsApp? God, do you like me? Do you love me? You know what the Mishnah Pirkei Avot says? God uses a certain measuring tape. And you know what was the name of this measuring tape? The people. People like you. God says, if people like you, there is something good. But if people don't like you, or people say, forget about it, like somebody said, I see this person across the street. It's painful to hear such a statement so early in the morning. I said, why? He tells me stories. I said, okay, you gotta come down. It's Erev Kippur. He says, Rabbi, I can't stand the attitude and the personality of the person. I said, are you married to this person? No. Okay, so ignore it. But it's a fascinating concept that Yom Yom quotes the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that says, it says very simple. When we are like Noah, let's talk about Noah for a moment. Why Hashem, God liked Noah? God was about to destroy the world. He did. With a hurricane called Menachem. That was the name of the hurricane. Hurricane Noah. Sa pasuk in the Navi. Ki Menachem zotli. Hurricane Noah. That was the name of the hurricane. We have Hurricane Milton. What's the letter after M? Nun. Noah. That's the name of the next hurricane.
The next one.
The next hurricane is going to call Noah. Or Nancy. Actually, needs to be a female. Because it goes male, female, male, female, male, nothing in between. Male, female, male, female. So most likely will be Nancy. Hamavdi. But according to the Navi, you know how the Mabul was called? Mabul Noah. Because it happened in his time. Nobody else survived. So the Pasuk says it. Ki nihamti ki asitim. At the end of Sefer Bereshit, Perashat Bereshit, God says, you know what? I regret that I created humanity. And then suddenly the Pasuk says, hold on, God, relax. There is nobody in the world. They did scan search. They scanned the world and they found one. Benoach מצא חן בעיני Hashem. And Noah found favor in the eyes of God. And we mentioned this maybe a month or two ago. The real name of Noah was never Noah. Noah was called Menachem. It's a pasuk. זה ינחמנו ממעשינו מעצבון ידינו. Noah was the first developer and the individual who developed tools for agriculture, for the field. That's why it was called Menachem. Consolation. זה ינחמנו. This is going to console us מעצבוננו, from our bitterness. מעצבון ידינו. That's what the pasuk says. From the depression of our hands, of our fingers. Can you imagine dig the ground with your fingertips, with your fingers? Plow the field with your fingers? All this matters. Noah says, guys, relax. Here is a shovel. Here is a pair of pliers. Here is a hammer. That's what Noah did. Noah developed tools to make the life of the people easier in the field. But you know why? So then, why do you call him Menachem? Call him Menachem. It's a beautiful name. Menachem Meshiv Nafshi. It's a pasuk. Menachem is a holy name. Why do you call him Noah? Noah im haberiyot. God says, I like you. I like him. Why? Because he was a pleasant person. So that's what Aventura says. You want people to be pleasant to you? We reciprocate to others, which is, in summary, the famous story of the Gentile that came to Hillel. Remember the story, the Gemara says, I want to become a Jew as I'm able to stand on one leg. And we know that is impossible. And yet Hillel says, not a problem. Here is the prescription. What is the prescription? How many milligrams a day? As many as you can. What you don't like to be done to you, don't do to others. That means if I do good to others, it reciprocates back to me. If I don't accept that somebody is not treating me right, or if not using the proper words, or is talking to me in a way that is not respectful, so then why do I allow myself to act in that way? That's basically the reciprocity of Ve'ahavta. The number 4, the bet of Teshuvah, Bechol derachecha da'ehu, is a known pasuk. I have mentioned this pasuk many times. Basically, the Pirush explains two things. One of them means that in every situation of life, there is godliness. You know that there is godliness in this cup. This cup has a godly element. This pen has a godly element. This recorder has a godly element. This microphone, how do you call it? Microphone? Yes, a microphone, okay. A microphone, it has a godly element. And how do I know that it has a godly element? Because it's functioning. If it doesn't function, God says, I'm going on vacation. God leaves, and the object has no longer purpose of functioning. It's like a battery. As long as they are charged, they work. They're empty, they don't work. I finish using this cup. It means that the cup fulfilled the purpose. People don't recycle these cups. Allow me to explain for the EPA friendly. Relax. I know my customers. In the room and in the virtual audience, how many times can I reuse this type of cup? Twice, maybe. If I leave this for another half an hour, not only the water will be cold, but it's going to become like already damp, and eventually it's going to start leaking, and that's it. So this has a limited lifespan. A glass cup can have 10 years of lifespan. That is the revelation of godliness. Now you may say, come on, Rabbi, you see God everywhere. The answer is yes. You know why? Because the more we see godliness, the more our emunah, number one, becomes to the roof in a good way, number one. And number two, we understand this is God. I got stuck in traffic. This is God. I waited 40 minutes for the appointment the other night. This is God. Believe me, when we understand that there is the godly element, believe me that our life becomes godly to begin with. The May didn't come one day. This is God deciding. You live happier, calmer, healthier. Your home becomes happier because I'm not exploding, I'm not reacting, I'm not complaining, I'm not kvetching. For me, the end of the world didn't come yet. I think that for me, the end of the world will never come. Why? Because we try to apply what we learn. That occasionally we have hiccups. Of course, having hiccups is part of life. We're not a malach. We're humans. So we're going to have days which are good, days that are going to be better, days that are going to be challenging. But remember what we learned maybe a week ago. By Ereb, by boker. By Ereb, by boker. That pasuk not only means that the concept of night and day functions on a regular basis. This pasuk is for our personal life. Okay, today I have a hiccup, but there is a better day called tomorrow. So the Ereb, the night that the pasuk is talking about, is not only the physical night, darkness, 7 p.m. the sun sets, I gotta wait till tomorrow morning 7:15 for sunrise. It also means in our situation. That's the concept of seeing godliness everywhere. Seeing godliness everywhere. Try this. You'll tell me, Rabbi, thank you so much. Don't say thank you to me. Say thank you to the word Teshuvah, because that's the hidden code of Teshuvah. And then, before I go to the final one, to the final letter He, so now, guess what? If I put God constantly in front of me, if I am honest with God, like we learned yesterday, Tamim Tihiyeh, be wholesome with God, be honest with God. And then we said, I place God constantly in front of me. And then I interact with my wife, my children, my relatives, my rabbis, my students, my teachers, my friends, everybody. You know what somebody told me the other day? You're one of the nicest people around.
I agree.
I said, my mother says the same thing. I said, my mother-in-law also. By the way. I got to throw in a plug for her, you know. Shalom bayit. You can't mention your wife, your mother, and not your mother-in-law. She should be well. No, behemet. And I said, okay, thank you very much. He says, because you always say to me, good morning, good evening, and you wave to me, you know, how much effort does it take? And sometimes I see how people walk in and out. If it's in the building, in the store, even in the office, you know, hey, relax. What happened? You just left from your house to get the valet. The first thing you complain to the valet? Say thank you. They're opening up the door for you. Next time, don't move your seat, my seat.
Oh.
Did somebody sleep in my car last night? I heard it.
Catching.
Crashing.
Yeah.
I didn't say nothing because sometimes, you know, just go on because better not to say. But I ask myself, if this is how they are handling the respect to a person that's doing a service for you. Like I asked a while back, I asked somebody, I don't understand you. He says, why? I heard them talking about you in the valet. So what they were saying says that you bothered them with bags, come down, bring up, and you never tip them. So I asked him, why don't you tip them? I pay maintenance. I said, Rocky, you don't think that I pay maintenance? And you know that I always have a few dollars to tip the gentleman or the lady that comes up with the bags and the packages? Why you have to do that, Rabbi? I said, because I don't want to be cursed.
Right.
I don't want them to say, look at this Jew, has a mezuzah,
Yeah.
has chachamim on the wall, Shabbat table, something that they don't understand. They do the work for you. You on top of them tell them, okay, these 2 bags on the kitchen counter, these 3 bags in the storage room, this one take it to the rent room. What is your Haddame? The valet is supposed to deliver it at Khalas. Baruch Hashem, after a few moments, he says, you're right. Why do we need to expose ourselves when we can avoid? And believe me, when we are called Beni Bechori Israel, when we are called the chosen nation, the people of the book, the firstborn of Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachol, so to speak, that comes with a certain level of expectation from the rest of the world. Because we are, the way our rabbis tell us, even the world says, you are the light into the nations. Okay, you know what? With $3, I can turn on the light of the world. To tip somebody who did something for me. And the guys know me already. I go to my in-laws, I always tell my wife, you have a few singles, sometimes I don't have money on me. I have plastic. They don't take plastic. So I said, let me tip them. Yesterday, it happened yesterday. And I said to the gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't have cash on me, but I'm going to go and come back. I went to the supermarket, I got cash from the ATM, I changed, I said, here, take double tip for the previous time that I didn't give you, and today's time. The guy says, I don't believe it. He said, why don't you believe? I'm giving you a $5 tip. He says, sir, he didn't call me Rabbi, he says, sir, it never happened that somebody came back to me and said, I'm giving you extra for the previous time that I didn't give. You know how I call these concepts? Easy mitzvot. Easy mitzvot. You say, it's a Gentile. What do you think? The curses of a Gentile has no value? I'm going to tell you a secret that's going to scare you. A Gentile holds a grudge against the Jewish people for a very long time. That's what it says. For years. I'm still looking for a Gentile that I owe him a tip. I have it in my mind. I see him, I'm going to give it to him. Because I told him I'm going to give it, but I didn't have cash. By the time I came back, he was gone. I'm not going to ask Google search his name, facial recognition. I'm not going to do that, but it's in my mind. This, how insignificant and simple situations it may be, that's what we represent. And if this is about a valet, imagine yourself another Yehudi, a friend, a relative, a spouse, a child. And the fifth one, it says, Hasnea lechet im Elokecha. This comes from the book of Micha. The pasuk says, Hasnea lechet. Hasnea means from Lashon Seniut, modesty. Walk with modesty with the Almighty. Now, when you talk about modesty, there are different aspects of life that there is a modesty aspect. The easiest one that we can relate to immediately is modesty in the way we live, modesty in the way we dress. If it's modesty in the ladies' department, if it's modesty in the men's department. I said this to somebody yesterday, then less than 15 hours ago. Somebody called me for a question. I said, I understand it, I see it, but the color I have an issue with. The color, I told them, I have an issue with. Very. That's the reason why, by the way, there is a tradition. I'm not sure if it's an actual halakha, but there is a tradition that on the day of Yom Kippur, we don't wear gold jewelry. Because the day of Yom Kippur is the tikkun of the egel. What was the egel? The sin of the golden calf. Gold jewelry. That's why, according to some opinions, no gold jewelry in Yom Kippur. Even my cufflinks, only the silver ones, not gold. If I decide to use cufflinks in Yom Kippur, Shabbat and holidays, I wear cufflinks to make a distinction. Otherwise, if I come like this to the shul, every day I wear a suit, every day I wear ties, every day I wear white shirts. But as you know me long enough, I have suits for Shabbat, shoes for Shabbat, ties for Shabbat, shirts for Shabbat, cufflinks for Shabbat. I have my Shabbat wardrobe and my weekday wardrobe. When it comes to Kippur, not only that, I read this a few days ago, and I'm not saying that it's a halakha, by the way, but it says that even the overall wearing of jewelry, it should be toned down for Rosh Hashanah, but especially Yom Kippur. I repeat, it's not a prohibition, but it's a sign of humility. It's a sign of anava. Okay, but I repeat, for the audience, it is not a halakha, but it's something what's written in the holy books. So for one day that I don't wear gold, also the gold cufflinks, they need to match what I'm going to wear that Shabbat. There is also Shulchan Aruch in the matching element. You ask me privately, I'll explain to you how the system works. Okay? But bottom line says, one more pirush, and then we'll move on to a handful of, just till 10:15, another 4 or 5 minutes, a couple of pointers for Yom Kippur, that it says that whenever we grow spiritually, or we take upon ourselves a new spiritual level of observance, don't really talk about it. Keep it between you and God. It's like sometimes we have wonderful people. It happened to me the other day. The other day means 14 hours ago, 13 hours ago. Okay? So somebody wants to do something in honor of the holiday for the synagogue, for the kollel, for Sukkot, etc. And he says, Rabbi, please keep it anonymous. Anonymous. There is such a concept. Although there is another concept that says you should publicize, correct, when somebody does a mitzvah. But on the other hand, if the person wants to remain anonymous, it's their right. And it's actually from a dividend perspective, from the reward for the mitzvah, anonymous gets higher than public. Because public, the enjoyment and the joy, so to speak, of your name being announced and everybody comes to you, Chazak Baruch, Chazak Baruch, Chazak Baruch. There is something. Which on the other hand, we do that in order to encourage others to do. You follow me how the system works? But yesterday case, the individual told me, Rabbi, I want to keep this anonymous, for the benefit of the kahal. I said, Hazak Baruch, I respect your wishes, etc. That is another way of modest. We have people in our congregation, they go up to the Sefer, they tell me, Rabbi, announce only this amount. Announce only this amount. When it comes to pay the bill, you know what they do? They add a zero at the end. Seriot. Modesty. Beautiful. And this is a few cases. What if a person, somebody was telling me the other day, he started to talk to me, I told him, please stop talking. I told him, I usually don't use this kind of language. Please stop talking. You're telling me something good. I said, why did you stop talking? Tell me to stop talking. I call him this pasuk. It says, what you do with you and God, keep it to yourself. Private. That's the meaning. The last he of Teshuvah is this. Hasnea lechet im elokecha. That was a few, maybe 2 weeks ago, in the next minyan, a question popped up. Can a person who did Teshuvah publicize their sins? Can they publicly say, I did this, I did this, I did that? You know what the answer is? Yes, maybe, no. No, because this is between you and God. Maybe if you think that is going to give hizuk to others. And yes, if you're a public figure and you're a hiccup and you say to people, you know what happened to me the other day, whatever, and people get hizuk, then you're allowed to. Otherwise, stay quiet. Why? Because of this pasuk. Not only that, you know that there is a Gemara that says, Ena beracha mesuya ela bedavar samuy min ha'ayin. In English, bottom line means, the less I speak about something, the more chances of success I have. The more I talk about it, the beracha writes, blessing is not found unless it's hidden from the eye. That's the meaning of the sentence. Samoy min ha'ayin, yani, do it on the ground, on the cover. What happens if I say, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to do that. Then suddenly you have pop-ups. You have traffic stops. You have unexpected situation. Why? My plan, look at my list. I have my list for tomorrow already. But suddenly I publicize my godly steps. Now there is a sleeping cell called the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara says, you think you're going to do all of the above? I'm going to send you a couple of my agents. Wake up late, alarm clock, I forgot to put it. I put 4:30 p.m. instead of 4:30 a.m. It happened the other day. I said, Ribono shel Olam, how come I did not hear the alarm? How come I did not hear the alarm? I found out, I did my own research. I put 4:30 p.m. like a hacham. Hacham bayo. Okay. I like to devote, with your permission, I know that I said I'm going to finish soon, but I need 5 minutes. And the reason why do I need 5 minutes, because a lot of the things that I'm going to say now, we should be mentally prepared for tomorrow. Now the Gemara writes, Kol ha'ochel bateshi'i ke'ilu tzam bateshi'i uba'asiri. Short explanation, the Gemara writes, Summary halacha, the mitzvah of eating extra food tomorrow. The Ben Ish Chai even wrote a prayer prior to this food. Doesn't matter. Bottom line, there is a concept of eating extra tomorrow. How many meals are this number? So mahloket. One opinion says 6 or 7 meals. Other opinion says eat extra to be able to be strong for the ta'anit. And because we're eating L'Shem Shamayim, this is one of the days of the year, perhaps the only day of the year, that the halacha is telling me, eat more. Eat more. But I already ate an hour ago. Doesn't matter. Kippur is coming, you eat more. Usually what we say, eat less. Don't finish the plate. Tomorrow, eat more. Let's clarify. Not all the se'udot must contain bread. In other words, you can have a sandwich in the breakfast class tomorrow, then you have an apple in the middle of the day, then you have a ka'ak and a coffee, and then you have Sauda Mafseket before Kippur. That should be like a mini Yom Tov meal. Understand, the meal that we're going to have tomorrow afternoon carries the power of a Yom Tov meal. So don't eat it in pajamas, don't eat it in shorts. Sit down on the Shabbat table, have the full meal, don't eat spicy food. The Ben Ish Chai writes about eating fish tomorrow. It should be in the early part of the day, not in the later part of the day. Drink a lot of water, tone down your coffee a bit, so this way you don't deal with the headaches and everything else that caffeine withdrawal brings upon the person, etc. Now, as I said before, no need to wash in every meal, but one should do. I personally wash only for Hamosi in the Sauda before Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur is a Ta'anit Mideoraita, we need to add a few minutes before the actual fast day starts. So if you look at the calendar, we time, give or take 9 to 10 minutes before sunset, so it means that we started the Ta'anit on the 9th and not on the 10th. Also tomorrow, there is a beautiful tradition, I say in the entire Jewish world, but in the Syrian world, it's a common practice for centuries, I believe, to light candles at the synagogue in memory of our beloved relatives. That's something that's going to happen tomorrow from 9 to 3. We're going to have the tables set up for the candles, memory of our parents, and tzedakah in their memory. Why? Because the day of Yom Kippur is not only the day for the bodies, but the day of Yom Kippur is also for the neshamot. And the Moed Kol Hai writes that the neshamot of our beloved relatives are with us throughout the entire day of Yom Kippur, arriving tomorrow afternoon and leaving Mosai Shabbat when we finish the prayer of Ne'ilah. For that reason, there is a custom to come to the synagogue, to light the candles, say Ereb Kippur, all these things, and give tzedakah in their memory. For some reason, you cannot make it to the synagogue, they do it at home and give tzedakah in the loved memory of the relatives. Also the topic of kaparot. Whatever your tradition is, do the kaparot. I'm not sure that there are many places to do with chicken. Maybe some other cities, they have it more accessible in Miami. Here, many communities do it with money. The money gives to tzedakah. You can find the forms on the round table outside, or you can go to the website of the synagogue and you can see kaparot form, lulav and etrog form, Sukkot, I believe information, whatever, and the schedule, obviously, in order to prepare for Kippur. Also, men, if possible, should make the effort to go to the mikveh in honor of Yom Kippur. The Kohen Gadol used to go to the mikveh 5 times in Kippur. We do 1 time before Kippur. There is also a concept of Malkut. Malkut means the 39 lashes. After mincha. Yeah, relax. We do it very softly, very gently. Tomorrow you'll see it live. Come to mincha in the afternoon. Imperative to say this. According to the Syrian tradition and many others, mincha of Ereb Kippur is with talet and tefillin. Tomorrow afternoon, our tradition is to do mincha with talet and tefillin. Look at the schedule. We're going to be offering 2 minyanim for mincha in order to prepare for the holiday. Also, it is imperative that we come to the synagogue for Kippur before sunset, because we must say the beracha on the talet while still daytime. So we need to plan ourselves tomorrow. Whichever minyan for mincha comes, tomorrow you should work less. If it's up to me, you should not go to work tomorrow. But if you need to go to work, by Hasod, by 1 o'clock, leave the office, come to the synagogue, do mincha, talet, tefillin, do your prayers. Imperative. Call your parents. Wish them Gema Hatima Tova. Ask them for forgiveness. Bless your children. We'll share the blessing with the email tonight, B'ezrat Hashem, to the Kahal Kadosh. Otherwise, it's in the beginning of the Mahzorim. Also do Teshuvah if the time allows it, Teshuvah. Ask for forgiveness from people, from relatives, from friends, from someone that you perhaps may have had some type of situation, a hiccup, and you have an open invoice, open balance. I don't mean to the synagogue. To the synagogue, you can go to the office and take care of it. It's a good siman. It's a good siman to do it. Give tzedakah. It says about the power of tzedakah that a person gives in Ereb Kippur. And Ereb Kippur doesn't mean tomorrow neither. It could start from today. To give extra tzedakah, to help the needy, whatever situation it may be, because at the end of the day, in the next, let's say 36 hours or less even, we need to invest in buying, not buying, but performing, that's a proper word, as many mitzvot as we can. Because we don't know how our accounting system is. We don't know which mitzvah is going to tilt the scale. And that's what it says here, a very interesting Maharsha. And it says the Maharsha, there was a great rabbi that used to give a lot of tzedakah in Ereb Kippur. So it says, שצדקה מכריעה דינו לטובה. It says, because tzedakah has the power to tilt the scale to the benefit of the person. Just one moment.
You go over just the kiddush tomorrow. I guess there's no kiddush.
Excellent question. Concerning the Sa'udah Mafseket, correct. There is no kiddush whatsoever to do for Sa'udah Mafseket tomorrow. Even someone, and I say this, I throw in, since we're talking about kiddush, let's say that someone that medically must eat in Kippur. Obviously in Kippur, being Ta'anit de Oraita, there is something called Shi'urim. The measurements of a person may be able to eat or drink on Kippur based on medical conditions. There are situations that require a person to eat. So there is measurements that they need to be followed. Number one, in other words, to circumvent a transgression, we minimize the amount of food intake that will not consider really eating according to the halakha. Because when I say the word eating, how much you have to eat in order to be considered eating? I'll tell you one thing. One opinion says a mouthful. Other opinion says an ounce. Other opinion says 2 ounces. Other opinion says depends. If it's feeding through a feeding tube or feeding through an IV or eating through food. That was the class we had in the Kollel 2 days ago. So there are parameters for ladies that are nursing, ladies that are pregnant, ladies who are men or ladies that, God forbid, They have medical conditions that they must take, mandatory, take a certain type of medicine, and needs to be taken with water, or needs to be taken with some type of food, or case of diabetes, for example. So every single one of these examples does have halachic guidelines to have a certain level of flexibility, staying within the parameters of halakha. And obviously, it's a disclaimer, every scenario that I mentioned, it needs to be handled by its own criteria. Doesn't mean, oh, I'm pregnant, I can eat. The opposite. If you're pregnant, don't eat. Spiritually, it's not beneficial for a pregnant lady to eat. For the baby, we'd say, the halakha is, a pregnant lady says, I like to eat. You whisper in her ear, today is Kippur. Why the halakha must tell me, whisper in the ear? Because you're talking to the baby.
How about nursing? Wow.
Each case, let the nursing mother contact the rabbi.
Right.
It already happened yesterday.
Less is more.
Let the person who has the question contact the LOR, the local Orthodox rabbi. That's Rashi Tevot. And there are plenty wonderful rabbis up north, all over, that can handle the questions if they are trained in the field of the rabbinate and Yom Kippur. And we get so many questions of this nature that more or less we have already guidelines to give the person, and I write, be aware that for a pregnant lady eating in Yom Kippur, spiritually is not beneficial. But there is always a but. If God forbid there is a situation, so then the halakha says run. Sometimes, forcing ourselves. I'm going to talk about now on the ladies department. Many halakhic authorities says a lady that is pregnant should stay home in Kippur. Don't come to the synagogue. There is no obligation. Stay home, air conditioning, safe, rest, read Tehillim at home, pray from the home, and khalas. What do you have to walk, go up, come down, eat, whatever the situation it may be? It's a very interesting guideline that it says there is no obligation. If the weather is challenging, stay home. And the Gemara even brings stories of ladies who ate in Kippur and did not eat in Kippur, and many years later, the results were seen in their children. But I don't want anybody to derive practical laws in this final topic, because as I said before, we're dealing with the ta'anid deoraita. It's a biblical fast day. And the consequences on a biblical fast day are clearly stipulated in the Torah, what the consequences are. I don't want to say to them. But also, the mitzvot were done for the person to live, not the opposite. So don't be a Hasid Shoteh. A person needs to eat. It's God forbid in diet. No, Kippur, I'm not going to eat. We tell them, eat. But one thing, a person who needs to eat in Kippur does not need to make Kiddush. There is no Kiddush for Yom Kippur. No Kiddush. There is Birkat Hamazon, obviously. And this is Shabbat. You have to say, Reseva Haliseno. And I don't know too many people that will eat bread in Kippur, even though they may have a medical condition. But the halakha is also, just eat to sustain yourself and continue, do intermittent fasting. Like, okay, you ate something, okay, then 3 hours later you come back. 2 hours later you come back. Doesn't mean you're going to eat a rib steak and you're going to have, delicacies. No, eat a few crackers, a piece of cheese, a bit of water. Even the water has measurements. Even the food has measurements. And when we give the measurements of the food for those that halachically may be allowed to eat in Kippur, it should be pre-measured in advance. And it's all-inclusive. Doesn't mean, so I can eat 2 ka'ak with a slice of cheese. No, you got to put it on the scale before the holiday. If it's more than 28 grams, but I only have 1 ka'ak and a quarter slice, that's your measurement. No, but it's not the same. 2 ka'ak and a slice. Rohi. Makes sense, doesn't make sense. Be happy that the halacha is smart enough and knowledgeable enough and godly enough to give us the minimum required to be able to function on a physical way and to stay within the parameters of the halacha. But as I said before, this topic that we discuss now is a very sensitive and delicate topic. Each case needs to be handled by its own merit. תזכו לשנים רבות, גמר חתימה טובה, נזכה למצוות to all the generous sponsors of today's classes. May the neshama have an aliyah in Gan Eden, amen. Baruch Adonai לעולם, amen ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיך. ירבה להם תורה מצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר. קדיש.